You've cleaned up your diet, tracked your cycle, studied your labs. You got the supplements, the protocols, the spreadsheets. You're organized, you're prepared, you're showing up fully. And still, it's not working. And wondering, what else am I supposed to do? If that sounds familiar, this conversation is for you. I call this energy pattern the strategist. It's one of 6 fertility archetypes I see most often in my work with women over 40. You might not know your exact archetype yet, but if you've been trying to outthink your body or carrying your fertility journey on your own, chances are some part of you is operating from this strategist energy. You can take the Fertility Power Quiz to find your dominant archetype. It's totally free, and it will give you clarity on the unconscious patterns that are shaping your fertility path and how to shift them. The strategist is an energetic pattern I've seen over and over again in women over 40. She's smart, driven, self-aware. She's used to creating results because she knows how to work hard, plan ahead, and show up fully. And it's not just about effort. She genuinely wants to do this right. She wants to give her future child the best chance. She wants to make sure she's doing everything she can. But here's what's often running underneath that. The belief that if you just find the right formula, you can make your body cooperate. The belief that more data equals more control, which will give you more likelihood of success. The fear that if you slow down, you'll miss your chance. But before we go deeper into how this pattern breaks down in your body, let's name what created it in the first place. Because the strategist did not emerge in a vacuum. She's a rational response to the messages you've been getting about fertility after 40. Let's talk about the stories our culture tells you. Your fertility drops off a cliff at 35 or 40, depending on your information source, as if your ovaries have an expiration date stamped on them. As if the moment you blow out those birthday candles, your body starts failing you. You're running out of time, creating this manufactured urgency that puts your nervous system into constant fight or flight, making every month feel like a missed opportunity instead of part of a natural process. You should have started trying earlier. The subtle and not so subtle shaming of women who dared to build careers, travel the world, or wait for the right partner, as if your life choices are somehow selfish or short-sighted. And here's the worst part. These messages aren't even accurate. Yes, fertility changes with age. That's biological reality. But the cliff, the panic, the geriatric pregnancy labels, that's cultural conditioning designed to make you afraid. Think about it. Women around the world routinely have healthy babies into their 40s. And even into their 50s, even though those are more rare. But you're living in a culture that has turned fertility into a performance. On social media, people post their supplement stacks, their perfect meal prep, their optimized morning routines, creating this illusion that if you just hustle hard enough, you can hack your way to pregnancy. The message is clear. If you're not doing everything, you're not doing enough. This creates a particularly tight bind for high-achieving and successful women. You're used to being able to solve problems. You have the resources to try multiple approaches. You're educated enough to research every option. You're organized enough to manage complex protocols. So when the culture tells you that fertility is another problem to solve, of course you apply all your skills to solving it. Of course you become the strategist. But what if the real problem is not your fertility? What if it's the story you've been told about your fertility? What if the urgency is made up? What if the shame is unwarranted? What if the pressure is entirely external? I'm not saying age does not matter. I'm not saying that you should ignore medical reality. I am saying that the fear around aging and fertility has been weaponized against you. And that fear is what's creating the strategist. Because when you're told that time is running out, When you have been made to feel like your body is betraying you, when you're convinced that anything less than optimization is failure, of course you try to control everything. It's a survival response to cultural trauma. But here's what I want you to consider. What would it feel like to reject these narratives entirely? What if you decided that 40-something fertility is not a medical emergency? What if you trusted that your body's timeline is not wrong, just different? And what if you refused to let a youth-obsessed culture dictate your worth? What if you remembered that women have been creating life for millennia without fertility apps, without optimization protocols, without the constant message that they're not enough? Your ancestors trusted their bodies. They worked with their cycles. They understood that creation happens in its own time, and they weren't operating from lack. They were operating from abundance. The abundance of knowing they were part of something larger, the abundance of trusting life's intelligence, the abundance of community support that did not depend on individual perfection. This is what we have lost. And this is what the strategist is trying to replace with control. But you cannot strategize your way back to abundance. You cannot optimize your way back to trust. You cannot hack your way back to wholeness. You have to remember it. You have to reclaim it. You have to refuse to let a fear-based culture direct your fertility journey. This is not just about getting pregnant. This is about reclaiming your sovereignty as a woman. Your right to trust your body, your right to move at your own pace, your right to reject narratives that make you small, scared, and desperate to buy solutions. The strategist emerged to protect you from these cultural messages, but now it's time to question the messages themselves. But let's pause for a moment and ask, how did you become the strategist? Because you weren't born this way, you learned to be this way. Maybe it started in childhood when you realized that being prepared meant being safe, that having the right answer meant being valued, that controlling your environment meant avoiding disappointment. Or maybe it crystallized in your career, where strategic thinking, meticulous planning, and flawless execution became your superpowers, where you learned that success comes from leaving nothing to chance. But here's what really locks this pattern in place: the fertility industry itself. Think about it. From the moment you stepped into this world, what did you hear? Your eggs are aging. Time is running out. You need to optimize everything. Have you tried this supplement, this diet, this protocol? The message is clear. Your body is failing and you need to fix it. So of course you became strategic. Of course you started researching, tracking, optimizing. The medical model taught you to see your body as a machine that needed better maintenance. The wellness world taught you to see it as a project that needed better management. And if you've experienced loss, miscarriage, failed cycles, disappointing lab results, every part of you learned that letting your guard down means getting hurt. So the strategist stepped in to protect you. She said, never again. We're going to control every variable. We're going to be so prepared that nothing can go wrong. She is not your enemy. She's actually your inner protector. But here's what nobody told you. The very system that created your need for control is the same system that profits from keeping you there. Every time you buy another supplement, book another consultation, try another protocol, you're feeding a machine that needs you to believe you're broken. But what if you're not broken? What if your body is not a problem to solve? What if the real issue is not your eggs, your hormones, or your age, but the story you've been told about what it means to be fertile after 40? Fertility does not respond to strategy, at least not in the way we're taught to chase outcomes. Because here's what's happening in your body when you're in constant strategist mode. Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and a late ovulation. Every time you check your app and see something off, every time you research another symptom at 2 a.m., Every time you calculate and recalculate your chances, your body gets the same signal: danger, threat, not safe. And when your nervous system is stuck in that hypervigilant state, here's what happens. Your adrenals start pumping out cortisol. When cortisol stays elevated chronically, it disrupts the delicate balance of your entire hormonal system, including progesterone production and timing. Your sleep becomes fragmented. You wake up at 3 a.m. thinking about your next protocol, your latest labs, whether you timed everything right. But deep sleep is when your body repairs, when growth hormone flows, when cellular regeneration happens. Your digestion shuts down. Because why would your body waste energy breaking down food when it thinks you're running from danger? But you need those nutrients. You need that gut health for hormone metabolism. Your blood flow redirects away from reproductive organs toward your arms and legs for fighting or fleeing. But your ovaries, your uterus, they need that circulation. They need that nourishing flow. And the irony of it all, the very behaviors you think are optimizing your fertility start triggering stress responses. Taking your temperature becomes a daily anxiety ritual. Checking cervical mucus becomes a source of panic. Even taking your carefully researched supplements becomes another item on your performance checklist. You're doing all the right things, but you're doing them from a place of fear, urgency, and control. And your body, wise as she is, knows the difference. She knows when you're taking CoQ10 because you trust her, and when you're taking it because you're terrified she'll fail you. She knows when you're tracking your cycle to understand her rhythms, and when you're tracking to catch her in a mistake. The same actions, completely different nervous system states, completely different messages to your cells. So while you're perfecting your supplement stack and timing your luteal phase down to the hour, your nervous system is getting one signal: I'm not safe yet. I have to stay in control. And the body doesn't open in that state, not emotionally, not hormonally, not energetically. Because think about it. If your system believes you're in danger, why would it create new life? If it thinks resources are scarce, why would it invest in reproduction? If it senses you don't trust it, why would it relax into its natural rhythms? So what starts as an empowered plan turns into performance, pressure, and often shame. I'm doing everything right, so why isn't it working? What am I missing? What else should I try? That's the strategist's spiral. And your body is listening to every single thought. But here's what nobody talks about. The strategist does not just cost you fertility. She costs you your life. Let me paint a picture of what I see in the thousands of conversations I've had with clients over the past 25 years. Your relationship becomes a lab experiment. Sex happens on a schedule, not from desire. Conversations revolve around cycle days, supplement timing, and test results. Your partner starts walking on eggshells, afraid to say the wrong thing during your 2-week wait. I've watched couples who used to laugh together sit in stony silence over dinner because everything has become about the mission. Your friendships start to strain. You cancel plans because they conflict with your protocol. You can't celebrate other people's pregnancies without calculating what they did differently. Every social gathering becomes a minefield of questions you don't want to answer. And slowly, quietly, you start isolating because it's easier than pretending everything is fine. Your career starts to flatline, not because you're less capable, but because all your creative energy is going toward managing your fertility. You're physically present, but mentally calculating ovulation windows during meetings. You turn down opportunities because they might interfere with your treatment schedule. That promotion you wanted, that project you were passionate about, they get pushed to the back burner while you optimize your way to motherhood. Your body becomes a stranger. You know your basal body temperature patterns better than your hunger cues. You can recite your hormone levels, but you've forgotten what it feels like to move for joy. Every sensation becomes data to analyze rather than information to trust. You've turned yourself into a walking spreadsheet. You lose your spontaneity. When was the last time you took an unplanned weekend trip? Tried a new restaurant without researching their fertility-friendly menu options? Made love without checking your app first? The strategist promised you control, but what she actually gave you was a cage. And perhaps most heartbreaking of all, you start to disappear from your own life. Your identity becomes woman trying to conceive instead of all the other magnificent things you are. Your dreams get put on hold. Your passions take a backseat. You become so focused on creating new life that you stop living the one you have. I see women who used to paint, travel, laugh until their bellies hurt, and now their whole world has shrunk to a 28-day cycle. The irony of this all this sacrifice, it doesn't actually increase your chances. In fact, I'll bet it's decreasing them. Because the version of you that could receive new life, she has been buried under protocols, buried under pressure, buried under the relentless pursuit of perfection. And here's what really breaks my heart. Even if you do conceive while operating from this energy, you carry that same controlling, hypervigilant pattern into pregnancy, into motherhood, into the rest of your life. So the question becomes, what are you actually optimizing for? A baby or a way of being that will serve both of you? Because your future child does not need a perfect mother. They need a present one. They need a mother who knows how to trust, how to flow, how to be in relationship with uncertainty. They need the woman you were before you learned you had to manage everything. The woman you still are underneath all the strategies. Now let's talk about something that often gets overlooked in fertility conversations. What the strategist does to your most important relationship. Because the strategist doesn't just manage your body, she manages your partner too. And this is where things get really painful. The woman who fell in love with spontaneous adventures now schedules sex based on ovulation predictor kits. The couple who used to laugh together now has tense conversations about supplement timing and cycle day calculations. The partnership that thrived on mutual support now feels like a fertility project with two very different job descriptions. Here's what I see happening. You become the CEO of conception. You're tracking, researching, scheduling, optimizing. You know exactly which day you ovulated, what your progesterone levels were, and whether your cervical mucus was optimal. Your partner becomes what? The sperm donor? They show up when the app says it's time. They take the male fertility supplements you researched. They nod along when you explain this month's new protocol. But inside, you're both drowning. You're drowning in the responsibility because somehow this became your job. Your body, your research, your emotional labor, your management of the process. And if it doesn't work, it feels like your failure. They're drowning in helplessness. Because what are they supposed to do? How are they supposed to support you when everything feels so clinical, so urgent, so out of their control too? And slowly, heartbreakingly, you start to lose each other. Sex becomes a job. Instead of connection, it's consumption. Instead of pleasure, it's performance. Instead of I want you, it's we need to do this now. Conversations become briefings. My temperature was up this morning. Did you remember your vitamins? The app says we have a 23% chance today. Where's the romance? Where's the intimacy? Where's the fun? And here's the part that breaks my heart. The strategist convinces you that this is necessary, that if you're not managing every detail, you're being irresponsible, that if you're not optimizing every opportunity, you're wasting precious time. But what if the opposite is true? What if the strategist's control is actually pushing away the very thing you're trying to create? Because babies aren't made in spreadsheets. They're made in moments of connection, of love, of two people choosing each other over and over again. And yet, the strategist has convinced you that choosing your relationship over optimal timing is somehow selfish. Let me tell you about a client. She came to me after 5 years of trying. She had charts, protocols, the works, but her marriage was hanging by a thread. Her husband finally said, "I don't feel like your partner anymore. I'm just your sperm donor." That was her wake-up call. Because what's the point of optimizing for a baby if you destroy the relationship that baby would be born into? Here's what needs to happen. Your partner needs to stop being a bystander in your fertility journey. This isn't just happening to you, it's happening to both of you. They need to be included, not just informed, consulted, not just instructed. You need to remember why you wanted to create a family with this person in the first place. Not because they have good genetics or optimal sperm parameters, but because you love them, because you want to build a life together, because they're your partner in all things, including this. You need to protect your relationship from the strategist. Set boundaries around fertility talk. Create space for non-fertility connection. Remember that you're lovers, not lab partners. And most importantly, you need to trust that love is fertile, that connection creates life, that joy is more powerful than perfect timing, that a strong relationship is the best foundation for welcoming new life. Here's what this looks like practically. Have fertility-free zones. Date nights where you don't talk about cycles or supplements. Weekend mornings where you make love because you want each other, not because an app told you to. Include your partner in decisions, not just, here's what we're going to do next, but what do you think about this approach? How are you feeling about where we are? Acknowledge their grief too. This isn't just hard on you. They're also facing disappointment, uncertainty, and the pain of watching you struggle. Their feelings matter too. Create rituals together. Maybe it's a monthly check-in where you both share how you're feeling. Maybe it's a way of honoring each cycle, win or lose. Maybe it's remembering to celebrate your love regardless of the outcomes. And recognize when they're trying to support you, even if it doesn't feel perfect. They may not understand your need to research every supplement, but they're showing up, they're staying, they're willing to walk this uncertain path with you. That's not nothing, that's everything. Because here's what I've learned. The couples who conceive are not necessarily the ones with the best protocols. They're the ones who protect their connection throughout the process. They remember that they're creating a family, not just trying to get pregnant. They choose each other as much as they choose parenthood. They trust that their love, messy, imperfect, and real, is the most fertile ground of all. Your relationship does not need to be sacrificed on the altar of optimization. It needs to be honored as the foundation of everything you're building. The strategist will tell you that perfect timing matters more than perfect love. But your heart knows better, your relationship knows better, and deep down, you know better too. I want to be really clear here. This is not about blaming you for trying hard. You have had to hold so much. You have learned that the only way to create what you want is to take full responsibility. And I absolutely commend you for that. That part of you, the strategist, is brilliant. But in this chapter of your life, she's not the one who needs to lead. She's tired. And what you actually need is softness. The body does not respond to perfection. It responds to presence. It does not open under pressure. It opens under permission. But what does that actually mean? Because trust your body can sound like spiritual bypassing when you're staring at disappointing labs. And I get that. So let me show you what trust looks like in real life. Trust is taking your temperature and then putting the thermometer away, not analyzing the data for 20 minutes, not Googling what a zero point 0.2 degree difference might mean, just noting the information and moving on with your day. Trust is feeling your cervical fluid change and saying, thank you, instead of, is this enough? It's appreciating your body's communication rather than critiquing her performance. Trust is having sex, wild, passionate sex, because you want to connect with your partner, not because your app told you to. It's making love on Tuesday because you feel drawn to each other, even if Wednesday was supposed to be optimal. Trust is eating the foods that make you feel alive, not just the ones on your fertility diet. It's having the chocolate when your body craves sweetness in moderation. It's trusting that she knows what she needs, even if it's not on your protocol. Trust is going to bed when you're tired, even if you haven't finished researching that supplement. It's prioritizing rest over one more optimization hack. But here's where it gets tricky. Trust is also feeling the panic when your period is late and not immediately rushing to Dr. Google. It's sitting with the discomfort of not knowing. It's breathing through the urge to control the outcome. Trust is getting disappointing test results and asking, what is my body trying to tell me? Instead of, how do I fix this? It's curiosity instead of crisis management. Trust is your partner suggesting a weekend away during your fertile window and saying, yes. It's choosing connection over conception. It's believing that joy might be more fertile than perfect timing. Trust is noticing when you're spiraling into research mode and choosing to go for a walk instead. It's recognizing the difference between gathering useful information and feeding anxiety. Trust is saying no to the latest supplement everyone is talking about because you're already doing enough. It's trusting your current path instead of constantly searching for the missing piece. Now, I want to be clear. Trusting your body isn't about ignoring your body. You can still work with healthcare providers. You can still take supportive supplements. You can still track your cycle. The difference is how you do these things. From strategy is, I need to fix my body before it fails me, versus from trust is, I'm supporting my body because I believe in her. From strategy of tracking to catch problems, versus from trust of tracking to understand rhythms. From the strategy of taking supplements to force outcomes versus from the trust of taking supplements to nourish your body. From the strategy of working with practitioners to get the right diagnosis to the trust of working with practitioners as partners in care. Can you feel the difference? Same actions, completely different energy underneath. But here's what trust really requires: the willingness to be with uncertainty, to not know if this cycle will be the one and be okay with that, to release the fantasy that if you just do enough, you can guarantee the outcome. The courage to disappoint the strategist in you. She'll panic when you stop researching at 11 p.m. She'll insist that you need one more test, one more opinion, one more protocol. Trusting your body means learning to soothe her fears without letting her run the show. Trust is also the radical act of believing you're not broken, that your body isn't betraying you, that she's doing her best with the resources she has, that maybe, just maybe, her timeline is not wrong. It's just different from your plan. And perhaps most importantly, trust is remembering that you're not just trying to get pregnant, you're learning how to be in relationship with life itself. You're practicing how to receive instead of control. You're discovering what it means to be held by something larger than your own will. This is the real preparation for motherhood, not the supplements or the protocols, but this, learning to trust the process even when you can't see the outcome. Learning to love your body even when she doesn't perform on command. Learning to be present with what is instead of constantly reaching for what should be. Because that's what your future child will need from you, not perfection, but presence, not control, but trust. And the beautiful thing, your body already knows how to do this. She has been waiting for you to remember. Now, before you panic and think I'm telling you to throw out everything you know, I'm not. The strategist in you is not your enemy. She's brilliant, she's smart, she's resourceful, she has kept you safe, but she does not need to be in the driver's seat anymore. Integration isn't about abandoning strategy. It's about putting strategy in service of trust instead of the other way around. Let me show you what this looks like. The strategist says, I need to track everything to feel in control. Integration says, I'll track my cycle for 3 months to understand my patterns. Then I'll track minimally to stay connected without obsessing. The strategist says, I need to research every supplement and optimize my entire protocol. Integration says, I'll work with one trusted practitioner to create a simple, sustainable plan that I can follow without constantly second guessing. The strategist says, I need to time everything perfectly or I'm wasting my chance. Integration says, I'll be aware of my fertile window and create opportunities for connection, but I will not sacrifice spontaneity for optimization. Can you see the difference? You're still using your strategic mind, but she's not running the show from fear. So here's how to begin integrating. Start with one area where you're over strategizing. Maybe it's checking your fertility app 15 times a day. Maybe it's researching supplements for hours every night. Maybe it's timing sex down to the exact hour. Just pick one, just one, and ask yourself, what would it look like to do this from trust instead of fear? Maybe instead of checking your app constantly, you check it once in the morning and then once at night. Maybe instead of researching new protocols, you commit to your plan for 3 months. Maybe instead of sex on demand, you focus on creating connection throughout your cycle. Start small, start gentle, because the strategist will panic if you change everything at once, and I really don't recommend that. It's going to backfire. When the strategist gets activated, and she will, practice this. Just pause, breathe, and ask, what does my body actually need right now? Not what the internet says she needs, not what worked for your friend, not what your anxiety is telling you she needs. What does she actually need? Maybe it's as simple as rest. Maybe it's movement. Maybe it's touch. Maybe it's space. Trust that first impulse before your mind jumps in with all the reasons why it's not enough and overcomplicate everything. It can be as simple as that. Here's the key. Use your strategic mind as a consultant, not a CEO. You consult the strategists in you when choosing healthcare providers, making major protocol changes, interpreting confusing symptoms, planning logistics around treatments. You do not let the strategist lead when you notice supplement anxiety spirals, obsessive cycle tracking, emergency Google searches at 2 a.m., comparing your journey to others online. The strategist is incredible at gathering information and making plans, but she is terrible at knowing when to stop. So set boundaries for her. I'll research for 30 minutes, then I'll make a decision. I'll check my numbers once a day, not every hour. I'll give this protocol 3 months before changing anything. Give her important work to do, but don't let her run your entire life. And practice this daily ritual. Every morning, before you check your phone, before you take your temperature, before you do anything fertility related, put your hand on your heart and ask, how can I honor both my wisdom and my trust today? Maybe your wisdom says to take your supplements. Your trust says to take it with gratitude instead of desperation. Maybe your wisdom says to track your cervical mucus. Your trust says to appreciate what you notice instead of analyzing what it means. Maybe your wisdom says to work with your doctor on optimizing your protocol. Your trust says to approach her as a partner instead of a savior. Integration is a practice, not a destination. Some days you'll nail it. You'll move through your fertility practices with grace and trust. Other days you'll find yourself down a research rabbit hole at midnight, convinced you found the missing piece. And both are okay. The goal is not perfection, it's awareness, it's choice. It's gradually shifting from I have to control this to I can work with this. And here's what I've seen happen when women master this integration. Their cycles become more regular, their relationships deepen, their anxiety decreases, and most importantly, their joy returns. Not because they stopped caring about their fertility, but because they started trusting their bodies to be partners in the process instead of problems to solve. The strategist will always be part of you, but she does not have to be all of you. Let her do what she does best, plan and prepare, while you practice what she cannot, which is to receive, trust, and allow life to unfold. Here's what most fertility advice misses. This is not just about changing your thoughts, it's about changing what's living in your body. Because trauma and control patterns don't just live in your mind, they live in your tissues, your breath, your nervous system. Let me ask you something. When you think about your fertility right now, what happens in your body? Do your shoulders creep up toward your ears? Does your jaw clench? Does your breath get shallow? Do you feel that familiar knot in your stomach? That's not anxiety, that's information. Your body is showing you exactly where the control patterns are stored. And here's what's crucial to understand. You cannot think your way out of what's living in your cells. You have to feel your way through it. The strategist lives in your head. She's all thoughts and plans and analysis and mental hoops that you have to jump through. But fertility lives in your body, in your pelvis, your womb, your breath, your nervous system. So if you want to shift from controlling to trusting, you have to bridge that gap. Here's what I mean. Traditional relaxation advice says, just calm down, just breathe. Somatic understanding says your nervous system learned to be hypervigilant for good reasons. Let's teach it something new. Because the strategist did not develop overnight. She developed over years, decades of experiences that taught your body that safety comes from control. Maybe it was childhood experiences where you learned that anticipating problems kept you safe. Maybe it was past losses that taught your nervous system that letting your guard down leads to heartbreak. Maybe it was years in high-pressure careers where your survival depended on managing every detail. All of that is stored in your body, in your breathing patterns, in your muscle tension, in the way you hold your pelvis, in how quickly your heart rate spikes when something feels uncertain. So when I say trust your body, I'm not asking you to override these patterns with positive thinking. I'm asking you to slowly, gently help your nervous system remember what safety actually feels like. Here's how that happens. It's learning to breathe into your belly instead of your chest, not because someone told you to, but because you notice that shallow breathing makes you feel more anxious and deeper breathing helps you feel more grounded. It's noticing when your pelvic floor is clenched tight and gently releasing, softening, creating space in the very place where you want to welcome new life. It's putting your hand on your heart when you're spiraling and feeling the steady rhythm that's been with you since before you were born. Remembering that your body knows how to sustain life. She's been doing it your whole existence. It's shaking out your hands when you catch yourself gripping, literally releasing the physical holding that mirrors the emotional holding. It's paying attention to your posture when you're researching fertility protocols. Are you hunched forward, collapsed, armored? What would it feel like to sit back, open your chest, and soften your gaze? Here's the thing about somatic work. It's not about getting rid of the sensations. It's about changing your relationship to them. So when that familiar anxiety knot shows up in your stomach or your throat during your 2-week wait, instead of trying to make it go away, you place your hand there. You breathe into it. You say, I see you. I know you're trying to protect me, but we're safe right now. When your shoulders start creeping up while you're reviewing your labs, instead of forcing them down, just roll them back gently. Stretch your arms wide. You remind your body through movement that she doesn't have to brace for impact. When your breath gets shallow during a difficult conversation with your partner, instead of pretending everything's fine, take 3 conscious breaths. Let your exhale be longer than your inhale. Show your nervous system through your breath that you can handle this moment. This is how you build trust with your body, not through force or willpower, but through thousands of tiny moments of choosing presence over panic, choosing softness over rigidity, choosing breath over holding. And here's what starts to happen. Your body begins to remember that she does not have to be on high alert all the time. Your nervous system starts to trust that you'll take care of whatever comes up. Your tissues begin to soften. Your breath deepens naturally. Your sleep improves. Your digestion relaxes. Your hormones start to find their rhythm. Not because you're controlling them, but because you're creating the internal environment where they can function optimally. This is embodied trust. Not just thinking thoughts about your body, but actually being different in your body. Living from your center instead of your head. Moving through the world with softness instead of armor. Breathing your way through uncertainty instead of bracing against it. Your fertility journey is not just about creating new life. It's about coming home to the life that's already living in you, the wisdom that's already there, the trust that's been waiting for you to remember. Now, I want to go deeper, as if we haven't enough, but a little bit more so, because what's happening in your fertility journey isn't just biological. It's not even just psychological. It's spiritual. Creation is a mystery. It always has been. It always will be. You can optimize every variable, perfect every protocol, time everything flawlessly, and still the spark of new life either ignites or doesn't. That's not a bug in the system. That's the point. Because creation, whether it's making a baby or writing a poem or growing a garden, has never been about control. It's about collaboration with forces larger and wiser than our individual will. The strategist wants to be the author of your story. But what if you're not meant to be the author? What if you're meant to be the vessel? Here's what I've witnessed over and over again. Women who have been trying for years, doing everything right, and then something shifts. They stop trying to make it happen. They start allowing it to happen through them. And suddenly, mysteriously, inexplicably, life finds a way. But this isn't about passive waiting. This is about a completely different kind of engagement. Instead of, I will make this happen, it becomes, I will create the most fertile ground possible and trust what wants to emerge. Instead of, my body is broken and needs to be fixed, it becomes, my body is sacred and knows things my mind cannot comprehend. Instead of, I need to control every variable, it becomes, I need to surrender to the intelligence that creates galaxies and grows babies from 2 cells. This is fertile surrender. And it is the hardest thing for the strategist to understand, because surrender sounds like giving up, but actually it is the most powerful thing you can do. Think about it. When you plant a seed, what do? You create the right conditions, good soil, water, sunlight, and then you get out of the way. You don't dig it up every day to check if it's growing. You don't try to control exactly how the roots develop. You trust the intelligence within the seed to know what to do. Your fertility works in the same exact way. Your job is to nourish yourself physically, emotionally, spiritually. Your job is to create safety in your nervous system. Your job is to clear whatever blocks are preventing you from receiving. But the actual moment of conception, the miracle of cells dividing, the mystery of consciousness entering form, that's not yours or any doctor to control. That's yours to welcome. And here's what blocks that welcome: the belief that you have to earn your fertility, that you have to be perfect enough, optimal enough, deserving enough. But life doesn't operate on a merit system. Life operates on love, on openness, on readiness to receive what wants to come through. The belief that your worth depends on the outcome also blocks that welcome, that you're somehow less of a woman, less valuable, less complete if this doesn't work. But your worth was never tied to your fertility. You're already whole. You're already enough. You're already sacred. The belief that you can think your way to trust will also block the welcome. But trust isn't a mental exercise. It's a full body, full being surrender to what is. It's saying yes to life, even when you can't see the plan. So what does fertile surrender actually look like? It's praying to whatever you consider sacred, not for a specific outcome, but for the strength to walk this path with grace, for the wisdom to know when to act and when to receive, for the faith to trust the timing that's unfolding. It's honoring your fertility as sacred, not as a mechanical process to optimize, but as a creative force to revere. Your womb is not just a reproductive organ. It is the literal seat of creation itself, the place where the invisible becomes visible, the threshold between spirit and form. Fertile surrender also looks like releasing the timeline, not because you don't care when it happens, but because you trust that there's a perfect timing you cannot see from here. Maybe your future child is waiting for something, a healing in you, a shift in your relationship, a moment when the stars align in a way that's beyond your comprehension. Fertile surrender is embracing the feminine principle. Our culture teaches us that masculine energy gets results, pushing, forcing, making things happen. But fertility is feminine. It's receptive, it's cyclical, it's mysterious. It responds to softness, not force, to invitation, not demand. And perhaps most importantly, fertile surrender is trusting that your fertility journey is a sacred curriculum, that every month of trying, every disappointment, every moment of hope and heartbreak is teaching you something essential, not about how to get pregnant, but about how to be fully alive, how to love in the face of uncertainty, how to find your strength in surrender, how to trust life even when it doesn't go according to plan. These are the qualities that make not just a mother, but a wise woman. Your fertility journey is not happening to you. It's happening for you. It's initiating you into a deeper relationship with mystery, with trust, with the creative force that moves through all of life. And whether or not you conceive, you will emerge from this journey transformed, more connected to your body, more trusting of life's intelligence, more open to receiving what wants to come through you in whatever form it takes. That's the real fertility, not just the ability to grow a baby, but the ability to life grow you. If this speaks to you, I'd love to know, where in your journey have you been trying to outthink your body, and what's one place you're ready to soften? Leave a comment below. It helps others feel seen, and it lets the algorithm know these are conversations that matter. If you recognize yourself in the pattern of the strategist, you're not alone and you're not broken. You're just tired from carrying it all. The first step is clarity. Take the Fertility Power Quiz. It will show you which energetic pattern has been running the show and what's available when you let something deeper take the lead. The link is in the description. I'll close this video out by inviting you to see the strategist in you as brilliant, but she's not the one who creates life. That happens when we stop performing and start receiving, when we stop managing and start allowing. This is not about doing more. It's about becoming more available to life itself. And here's what becomes possible when you move beyond the shadow of the strategist. You wake up in the morning and your first thought is not about your cycle. It's about gratitude for the day ahead. You check your fertility signs with curiosity instead of anxiety. You move through your protocols with reverence instead of desperation. Your relationship transforms. You and your partner remember why you fell in love. You make love from desire, not duty. You laugh together again. You dream together about the family you're creating, not just a pregnancy you're trying to achieve. Your entire life expands. You take that art class you've been putting off. You say yes to the weekend trip during your fertile window. You pursue the promotion because you trust that your life can hold both ambition and motherhood. You remember that you're not just a woman trying to conceive, you're a woman living fully. Your nervous system settles. You sleep deeply through the night. Your digestion improves. Your energy stabilizes. Your body becomes a safe place to inhabit instead of a problem to solve. And if you do conceive, you don't carry the anxiety and control patterns into pregnancy. You trust your body's wisdom to grow your baby. You prepare for motherhood from a place of confidence, not fear. You model for your child what it looks like to trust life itself. And if your path to motherhood looks different than you imagined, you don't lose yourself in the process. You discover strengths you never knew you had. You deepen into wisdom that serves you for the rest of your life. You understand that your worth was never dependent on any outcome. This is what happens when you shift from the shadow of the strategist into integrated power. You become a woman who can hold both planning and surrender, who can research and then rest, who can hope and then release, who can desire deeply and trust completely. This transformation doesn't just affect your fertility, it changes how you show up in your career, your relationships, your creativity. It changes how you handle uncertainty in every area of your life. It changes the legacy you leave, whether as a mother or as a woman who lived fully in her power. Because here's what I have learned in 25 years of this work. Age is not the obstacle. Age is the portal. Every year you have lived has been preparation. Every experience has been curriculum. Every challenge has been strengthening you for this moment. You are not too old. You are not too late. You are exactly where you need to be to receive what's to come through you. The world has told you that 40-something fertility is a medical emergency, but what if it's actually a spiritual initiation into deeper trust, into embodied wisdom, into the kind of sovereignty that can only come from walking through uncertainty with grace. You can implement everything I teach through my free content. These videos, these insights, these practices, they're all here for you, and there will be much more to come. Take what serves you, use what resonates, trust your own inner knowing above all else. But if you're ready to be held in a higher frequency, If you're ready to move out of the shadow aspects of the strategist and into her integrated power, if you're ready to shift your entire relationship with age, time, and what's possible for your life, that's the work that we do together. Because transformation happens in relationship, in community, in the field of someone who can hold space for your becoming. I help women elevate beyond the strategist entirely, not by abandoning her gifts, but by integrating them into something larger, something that trusts the intelligence of life itself, something that knows your age is not a limitation, it's your superpower. Your body knows how to receive. Let's create the safety for her to remember how. Take the Fertility Power Quiz as your first step. The link is below.